Chaos.
It is total, absolute, abject chaos.
Calamity.
I mean, the lettuce might as well be running the country.
And Steve Baker.
What a cunt.
These are the end of days. Hello everyone, my name's Matt Johnson and welcome to The Interesting Times, a show that tries to understand what is going on right now in the most horrifying country if you live in the UK, or entertaining if you're outside. There'll be lots of this.
Can we stop pointing?
A certain amount of this.
The damage they have done to our party is extraordinary.
And at the end of it all, a twist more obvious than the ending of Titanic. There's so much here. We are going to have to break down of the UK into days. Yep, that's where we are right now. We don't use diaries to oversee the terms of ministers or even calendars. We are now using stopwatches. Let's start last Sunday evening. Liz Truss gave an interview with the BBC's Chris Mason, where she spent an hour giving overly nonsensical answers with all the warmth, confidence and enthusiasm of a kidnapped contestant on Just a Minute.
We have made mistakes. I'm sorry for those mistakes, but I fixed the mistakes.
Repetition.
We reversed
hesitation.
international times with the war being perpetrated in Ukraine.
Deviation. Now, what became rather obvious from the interview is that Liz Truss doesn't like to face the press or public, and staff sometimes have to make up stories about relatives dying in order to get her out of public appearances. That evening, Therese Coffey admitted she gave some leftover prescription drugs to a friend. Therese Coffey, who is, genuine story, the Health Secretary, the government minister responsible for oversight of NHS delivery and performance and oversight of social care policy, handing out prescription drugs to non-prescribed friends like she was Dr. Nick Riviere on spring break. This is our Health Secretary going full Walter White. I mean, can things get any worse? So, on to Monday, the new Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, scrapped all the bad parts of Kwasi Kwarteng's mini-balls up. In other words, all of it, and found they were still shy by several £billion. So Liz Truss's commitment to no spending cuts were out the window, proving her numbers weren't worth the crayons she scrawled them down with. So we had to put up with Jeremy Hunt's cuts, which is a problematic phrase reported with rather predictable results.
That means the hole in the public finances is bigger than it would have been, and Jeremy Hunt's cuts.
Where the sort of axe is going to fall that Jeremy Hunt is in.
In amongst all this insanity, Labour demanded that the PM appear to answer questions at the House. But bearing in mind how that's gone before, they decided that the job should be given to Penny Mordaunt, who reassured everyone.
Well, the Prime Minister is not under a desk, as the Honourable.
Yeah, the Prime Minister does in fact, in most cases, know how to use furniture. She does struggle with her cabinet though. But a bit of compassion, please. She has, after all, just lost her grandmother for the 5th time this month. And then on Tuesday, after last week's detesting of the Tories by the Scots, this time it was the turn of the Welsh to be angry. Here is Wales First Minister Mark Rayford getting heckled by leader of the Welsh Conservatives, plural, that's right, there is more than one of them, Andrew R.T. Davis. And he thought, you know what, I'm not having it.
It is shocking. It is absolutely shocking to me that you think that you can turn up here this afternoon with a mess that your party has made to the budget of this country, to the reputation of this country around the world, that you promise those people that there will be more to come, and you think you turn up here this afternoon and claim some sort of moral high ground? What sort of world do you belong in?
What sort of world do they belong in? Preferably one without oxygen. It's all kicking off in the Senate. Fair play to Mark Rayford. I haven't seen a Welshman that angry since the leader told Tom Jones, enough with the questions. Then on to Wednesday, and at first it all seemed to be going swimmingly, like a small dinghy in the English Channel, which obviously upsets Suella Braverman.
It's the Labour Party, it's the Lib Dems, it's the coalition of chaos, it's the Guardian reading, tofu eating, wokerati.
She then did something very out of character for a cabinet minister and resigned for breaking the rules. And then did something very in character and took a swipe at her boss on the way out. Suella Braverman in a resignation letter talks about being concerned with the direction the government was taking, which is clearly ridiculous. I mean, the one thing that you can say about this government is that there is no direction. Wednesday evening saw Labour demand a vote banning fracking. Pretty straightforward, as this was part of the Conservative manifesto. But that was 3 years, or about 14 Home Secretaries ago. The Conservatives were told that this was a confidence vote, meaning they had to vote with the party or the whip would be removed. And take away a Conservative MP's whip, and all you have left is a leather hood, nipple clamps and a pair of furry handcuffs. But 10 minutes before the vote, they were informed it was not a confidence vote, which led to a lot of confusion. And certain MPs were cajoled, manhandled and even at one point physically lifted up to be taken to the government supporting lobby, leading a few of them to turn around to Jacob Rees-Mogg and tell him to f*** off. The Chief Whip, Wendy Morton, was reported to have said this.
Woraufhin dann der stellvertretende Fraktionschef...
Oh. I'm sorry, I don't understand German.
I'm fucking furious and I don't fucking care anymore.
Okay, that I understand. She then left the chambers, followed by Liz Truss, who was trying to get her and the Deputy Chief Whip, Craig Whitaker, to stop from resigning, which meant Liz Truss didn't actually vote in the motion she declared as a confidence motion in the government she was heading. I mean, can things get any worse? Jacob Rees-Mogg said this was a government functioning well. Okay, so on to Thursday. The day before at PMQ's, Liz Truss said this.
I am a fighter and not a quitter.
But following Wednesday fight night, Sir Graham Brady, chairman of the 1922 committee, said, "Babe, we need to talk. The last 45 days have been horrible. I mean, really, really awful. Like a dystopian nightmare, rolled up in a carpet of confusion and tied up with a string of despair sailing down the river of the damned." So the podium came out, which we now know is a passive-aggressive indicator that you're not welcome anymore, like putting the chairs on tables in a pub. And lack of fizz Liz stepped up and told the country what the rest of us had known for at least a few weeks.
I came into office at a time of great economic and international instability. Putin's illegal war in Ukraine threatens the security of our whole continent. And our country has been held back for too long by low economic growth. I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected.
All of which, of course, are at least the same or worse since she came to power. For the last few weeks, Liz Truss has been what's called a PNO, Prime Minister in name only, which is different to a wino, which is someone that likes to drink and is a wanker in name only. So Friday comes around and the race to the bottom begins. Ben Wallace was a preferred candidate for a lot of Tories who saw him as a calm, responsible and intelligent individual, a theory he was only too happy to trash by backing Boris Johnson for the leadership race. It's looking like it's between Rishi Sunak, a man who flouted the law during COVID lockdown and received a fine, and Boris Johnson, a man who flouted the law during COVID lockdown and received a fine, and lied about it. I would say things can't get more ridiculous, but I'm old enough to remember Liz Truss running the country. Johnson apparently telephoned a lot of Tory MPs to reassure them that the partying, holidaying, work-shy shyster he was is not the man he is. And he did this from the Dominican Republic, where he'd been on holiday for the last few weeks. Of course I'll support you, Boris. I understand you're now the sort of hard-working individual that puts their constituencies first. Is that a merengue band I can hear in the background? Now, Johnson is getting a lot of backing on Twitter with people using the hashtag Boris or bust. The good news with Boris is you get both. And while all of this is going on, the country's economy is having more ups and downs than a yo-yo with a crack habit. The BBC helpfully pointed out the rules for the leadership race. The candidates have until 2 p.m. on Monday to declare that they are running in the race. And if there are 3 of them, one of them will be knocked out on the same day. Ooh, can we pick which one? Now, as of Saturday evening, the only candidate with 100 backers is Rishi Sunak. But the only one that's definitely declared that they are running for the leadership is Penny Mordaunt, meaning nobody is currently standing to be the next Prime Minister. So no real difference from the last 45 days, really. I mean, can things get any worse? I've really got to stop saying that. What we need in these telling and trying times is someone to unite the nation, to speak to all people, and to communicate what we are all feeling in our hearts at this precise moment. That man is this guy. Who is he, I hear you ask? Don't know. What I do know is he has more of a grasp on economics, law, health and democracy than any Prime Minister I've seen in the last 48 hours. And here I give you his leadership video.
Check shirt in the top, yes. Graham spoke at the beginning about wanting someone who can command a majority in the Commons, and Jess says something about them needing a mandate, a proper mandate. There's only one man who's got both of those boxes ticked, and that's Boris Johnson. I think it's time for him to come back.
OK.
And that's it. At the start of the video, I said that the twist was more obvious than the ending of Titanic. And just like the Titanic, Liz was outdone by an iceberg. Yes, the lettuce outlasted Liz. The Daily Star are now going with Boris Johnson as an aubergine for rather obvious reasons. Yes, we are now picking our prime ministers on vegetables and fruits. Although that does mean we are guaranteed our 5 a day. And that's it. No time to talk about anything really. Please feel free to join me on next week's show to see if the UK has completely lost its senses. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you are enjoying these vids, then please don't forget to like, subscribe, share and hit all the notifications bell, and I'll see you all next week. Take care.